Welcome back then folks to the second build of day 4 in Special Projects pack number 18. This one you knew was coming. In fact, it's been coming for quite a while because, as you will probably remember from my review of this car when it was first added in Gran Turismo 7, I'm pretty sure I reviewed it with this livery on it. And although I've slightly tweaked the build to make it, believe it or not, even quicker than it already was, this is a build which has kind of been in Gran Turismo but also kind of not. If it looks familiar and sounds familiar, it should be, because what you might know as the HKS CT230R, in of course bright red, is actually this car. This is its predecessor, the TRB-02, which was crashed and then they revamped it into that red version. So it's quite literally the same car, but with a better fate than something like a Mazda Furai, for example. So presumably not quite as powerful, I believe 540 or so horses. I couldn't find what the actual weight of the car was. It could well have the same weight as a CT230R, so you could drop it to, what is it, like 1,092, I think, something like that. I've gone for 1,100 just to be safe. And spoiler alert, if you're hoping for this to be an absolute time attack monster at Tsukuba, which, for those who are uninformed, is what the name stands for, TRB is Tsukuba Record Breaker, well, it actually can match the real record lap, even with me driving, who's nowhere near the quickest of drivers in the world, a 55.5 second lap. That is properly quick. Now, I believe, and we'll see in a second, I was just a little bit off, but something like half a second for me driving means that plenty of you will definitely match the record. So, of course, you can download the livery, etc. that the player's done. You will need a wide body, pretty obviously, for this one as well. The link is down below to that livery. As far as the build itself, you basically need to do everything, which I think kind of speaks for itself. You don't need the engine swap, of course. As far as the ultimate stuff, I've gone for the carbon prop. You don't really need to, but it does kind of fit the vibe of the car. We've got the titanium rods and pistons. To jump back to the sports section, stage 1 weight. Of course, the hard tyres are already fitted. The club sports stuff, we've got the high lift cams, the bored out engine, of course stage 2 weight, the power restrictor and ballast. For the semi-race, the ECU, the crank, the high RPM turbo, the limited slip diff, and then down here the stage 3 weight. You could go for rigidity. I've opted to leave it off. It's not entirely necessary. In fact, I wouldn't say it's necessary at all on this car. As far as the racing stuff, anti-lag, polished ports, balanced tuning, stroked out engine, intercooler, filter, silencer, manifold, pads, and as far as the discs, it's not entirely accurate. I've got the ceramics. That actually predates this replica. I just fitted those when I first reviewed the car. So if you want to be a bit more realistic, you could go for these instead, the drilled or slotted, but I'll leave that down to you. As far as the suspension, of course, that's fitted. The clutch and flywheel, of course, the torque vectoring center diff, the fully customized transmission, and racing hard tyres. So again, it's matching the record without even having soft tyres on it. So you put mediums or softs, it's definitely going to be even quicker. And as far as the extreme stuff, in addition to the ceramics, we've got the handbrake and the steering angle adapter. And of course, we were already on the ultimate section. So like I said, you're basically fitting pretty much everything. But on the one hand, being well under 700 points is a very nice advantage for online events, all that kind of stuff. But as far as the actual build, if we jump into that side, of course, the tyres are fitted. For the suspension, slight difference front and back, 92 on the front, 95 on the rear, 5 for anti-roll, 25 and 35 for the dampers, 3.2 on the spring, so very high, the maximum in fact on the front. As far as the camber, almost said toe, it's got 2 on the front, 1 on the rear, and then for the toe, quite a hefty amount of toe in, much like a front-wheel drive build, of course, to help with that turn-in on corners. To be honest, you could probably take it even higher than that if you wanted to, but for me, I like how this one already is. Some people will definitely find this heavy through corners, and you'll see why in a second, of course. And as far as the toe on the rear, I've opted to leave that as is. As far as the diff, 1010 on the front, 3030 on the rear, and a 50-50 split on the torque. Now, any of you who know me know that I like having a 50-50 split on most four-wheel drive cars. Some people will find this too heavy through corners. I would argue the lap time shows it's more than quick enough with a 50-50 split, and to me, it actually feels more accurate to what the CT230R is like, because that car is actually a bit heavy on the front end as well. As far as the transmission, and incidentally, of course you could change the 50-50 split if you want to, just go for whatever you want. The transmission I've gone for a 300 km/h auto setting, which is up around 195, probably 200-ish miles an hour in GT7 terms. As far as the ballast, 8 kilos. Like I said, you could just go for a 1092, which is the lowest if you want to. I've put that all the way to the back, not that it makes a huge amount of difference anyway. The power, of course, is unrestricted. As far as the downforce, we've got the maximum, not quite as high, I imagine, as the actual CT230R would be, but hey, it's as close as we can get. I do have the anti-lag set on strong, because of course, being a time attack build, It doesn't really matter about the fuel economy, but you could adjust that if you do plan to, I don't know, use it as an endurance car or a cash cow kind of build, whatever you want to do. And then, of course, you can see all of the many, many other things which we've fitted here. Now, though, what you want to see, what you've wanted to see the entire time, is what the car actually looks like when it's blasting around Tsukuba. Now, this one is, as I said, really heavy going into and midway through a corner. When it pulls out of the corner, it loosens up just a little bit, but still has, of course, monstrous grip over the front end. Maybe putting it on mediums or softs could probably alleviate some of that, and increasing the toe in, of course, would as well. But for me, I think it just requires a slightly different approach to your driving style. As I've said before, I like cars that have a bit of a heavy steering approach because it's more consistent. The car doesn't tend to catch you out because you can plan for it. Whereas, you know, if you have a car that's slip sliding all over the place, it can sometimes catch you out even for the most seasoned of drivers. Here at Tsukuba, though, you will see just how quick it can be. Like I said, I'm not even the quickest of drivers in the world, and if I can even come close to what kind of a lap this was doing when it broke the record, well, yeah, you could definitely, in many cases, go even quicker than that. So it's a monstrously quick car, exactly as it should be, completely flat, stiff, neutral through corners, just like you'd expect it to be. And yeah, it kind of means that you don't really need the actual version in the game. You can build this car to be so close to it in terms of performance. So I hope you enjoy it. For many of you, I know you're looking forward to this one. And of course, check out the remaining builds tomorrow. There's only a couple left, and the ones which we've already done earlier in the week. But for now, thanks for watching.